So continuing where we left off. Um, we talked about um elements of historical context, which is what we use to feed the historical context, to interpret. So then, which leads to how do we find these elements of historical context? So this breaks down into individual, as from the list I was just telling you guys about: politics, government, law. Like I said, what type of government surrounded their influence, like at this time. Economics, what was going on? Were people poor? Wow, I just threw it all in there at you. I'm so sorry. So we're just gonna reiterate everything that I said about the list. Then we have sociocultural, which I really wanted to save. Like what were the attitudes towards gender, sexuality, ethnicity, race, class, age? As you know, we were talking about the poor people's campaign. So class is going to be something big here that we need to focus on. And I think race and nationality, especially in American history, is always, a big factor in most historical events. Religion, who was being oppressed, who's not, who was thriving, all that good stuff. Going like this really fast. Science and technology, what was happening, what was being invented, what was brought up. And then community histories. I kind of misinterpret this a bit, so I'm glad that we are doing this. So I'm reading from the screen. What is happening in African American, in Native American, Asian American, all of these different ethnicities community, which again is really important and a big factor in most American history, which is a bit depressing. Environmental, what was the landscape, what was what was the weather, health, medicine, disease, what state of medicine was the time of this historical event, blah, 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 what were their attitudes towards medicine, we have anti-vaxxers today, we probably have anti-vaxxers years ago, personal opinion, please excuse me. Military, how did war and military effect influence historical events, and then key events in history, what events happened internationally, nationally, regionally. That also goes with military, because even though we, just kidding, we participated in both world wars. But even then, even before we had participated, it was really having a big effect on our community and how we then, talk to our community. So now that we've explored the elements of historical context, let's use them to practice analyzing the image we viewed earlier. So let's start. And we're going to zoom in because I cannot read. Oh, there we go. Oh no. Okay. So think about the concept. It's giving you the full picture. So we've got Martin Luther King and poverty in the 1960s. Remember, the Poor Person's Campaign started in 1968. We researched, so we think about the time period, we get the full picture of what's kind of happening. Then we research all of those little elements individually, and it's not extensive research. It's really just the basics of, what was happening. That's really the big picture about history and interpreting history, is what was happening. It's so easy. Zoom. And then these factors will then give you more information. Again, big picture. History is awesome. And then these various factors come together to create a concept, which gives you a fuller picture of the historical topic. So we've got poverty in the 1960s right over here. And then we have all of these different factors of religion, economics, and it shows you little bits of that in each of these little photos right here. It shows you where that is in the photo, if you've noticed. I just did. Yeah, and then you get, so this photo is the Poor People's Campaign in 1968 and the fight against poverty. So after that, what do we know about this image? Should we read the caption or catalog information to help us figure out who or what is the subject? When was this image taken? Where was this image taken? Along these lines, one of my favorite things to talk about is, why was this photo taken? You know, you never think about that, of why photographers, took these photos. Is it to just show what was happening? Is it used like for malice intent? We'll never know, and history comes in to fill in the blanks. So the description of this photo is called Mule Train from Mississippi Going Through the City of Washington in D.C., June 1968. And this is it's blown up so we can fully see what's going on. And I think, just as we can tell just from this image, those in the wagons are poverty stricken, and they're just trying to probably find a place to settle. And I know that was really quick, that was very fast, but as we reiterate, I'm going to go back. As I said before, historical context is understanding the big picture and not just focusing on one small thing. When we look at a picture or like a quote, or as I mentioned before, even a film from the past, there is so much surrounding it that it's amazing of why people did what they did, why they were, and you get this one small picture, the historical event, that photo, whatever, and then you get the fuller picture by including all of these elements into your research, and not even into your research, but into your knowledge, And then again, as I said before, it's amazing what historians do with this. Like, we take these little bits of information with this one small picture that we have, and we make it bigger, and it's different for everybody, which goes against that, there's a wrong or right answer, which, I mean, there is for history as well, but it's, there's only so much history gives us for us to interpret, to make our own decisions, and that's why we write secondary sources. So please email me if you have questions about historical context. As I said, we will go into this earlier next week. My last words are, history is cool, and it's amazing what historians do. And it's fun. It's fun, Have a great weekend, everybody, and stay warm. Bye.